There is a beautiful old expression that quite simply says, the more things change, the more things stay the same. And for that reason, we're going to take a retrospective look at the Cape Sizzling summer season of last year in order to find what may well be the key horses for this year's 2015-26 season. Can we find another MARJMU? Can we find another INARA? Or an ALBORAN C for that matter? And how do we find the next Act of War? Or the next FUTURA, the horse of the year? And perhaps the next ERTIJAAL, the winner of the Investec Derby? It's a quest that we've solicited the services of one of the most passionate and expert journalists in Cape Town, none other than Mark van Deventer. What do you say, Mark?
Andrew, the season itself was exceptional. There were high-class performances. It was very well staged, and it, as you indicated, kicked off brilliantly with the Aventure fillies guineas. It attracted a small but potent field, and the performance of MARJMU was one of the highlights of the season. She is a genuinely high-class filly. You know, she received a perfect ride by Anthony Delpeche, just stalked in the box seat. The stablemate Atab ensured a true run race. It was super impressive. That form line was subsequently franked with the performances of INARA in winning the Majorca Stakes and the Paddock Stakes. So it was one of the key events of a brilliant summer season.
MARJMU says, come and catch me if you can. She's already kicked 3, 4, 5 lengths clear of the balance, and she's gearing down to victory. MARJMU, hands and heels, wins it from in second INARA.
The sad aspect of the fillies guineas was the withdrawal of Cold as Ice, who played up in the pens and bolted the course. And you can take nothing away from MARJMU's victory. The speed figure was strong, the finishing fraction was also very powerful, despite the fact that she was eased up the last 100. It was just a smooth and assured win.
Okay, well, a race that has been lost in the past in respect of its timing. Everybody's on holiday, but Hassan Adams has done an incredible job in making sure that it's a day for the children, a day for the people, and he's taken the Grand Parade Guineas to new heights.
He has indeed, family orientated, lots of giveaways, linking it with the Christmas festivities. And it's an historic classic. There's no such thing as a dodgy Guineas winner. They nearly all go on to prove themselves at the highest level. And this year was a real classic showdown between Harry's son, Paul Lafferty's Invader from Durban, who endured a really hazardous trip getting here. Laff told me, you know, that they were stranded on the tarmac in the early hours of the morning in Port Elizabeth. And yet the horse just coped with that adversity and ran an exceptional race. He zoomed through down the inside. It looked like he might have stolen it under Striker Stratum, but Act of War launched a big rally in the centre of the course and just proved too strong on the day. And Act of War is a very, very fine miler, and I think this was his peak performance.
Down the inside, Harry's son, but Act of War is coming on full of running, and Act of War now gets driven into the lead from King Vault. Harry's son is towards the inside, but Act of War, with 100 metres left to go, has kicked for home, and he's powering home to win the Grand Parade Cape Guineas. Act of War, hands and heels.
We moved on to the big guns, and of course it was a case of North versus South, and Louis the King, the Gauteng champ, taking on the might of Legislate and FUTURA. And of course we all know, it's well documented, that part of the plan didn't come together.
Yeah, Legislate had a respiratory bug, ran no sort of race when it was punted deep into the red, actually trailed in at the back of the field. It was a slow run Queen's Plate, and the ability to accelerate was decisive. And FUTURA ran the last 1,000 in just over 59 seconds. That's admittedly hand time from the crossover. And FUTURA blasted past everything, came from the back. Louis the King launched a rally on the outside, just couldn't resist FUTURA's late dart. And that teed things up for the Met. The betting changed big time with Legislate falling by the wayside. And I think many pundits were so impressed by Futura winning yet again at the Grade 1 level, proving his class.
Stand side, it's Ashton Park. Legislate has come under a ride. Futura gets driven into the lead with 100 metres left to go. Ashton Park, Louis the King over the top. He's wearing down Futura, drawing to the judge. Futura beats Louis the King.
In the build-up to the Met, I did an interview with Brett Crawford, and he's had proven success, Grade 1 level. He's done fantastically over the years, and he was very calm and confident, but he just had that steely sense that all he needed to do was look after Futura and the horse would get the job done. And that's indeed how it proved. The Met was also a false run race. They went very slow early on, and Futura blasted home the last furlong in just over 11 seconds. Nothing else really could go with him. Gold Onyx ran on belatedly from the back, but wasn't really a threat. It was still a good run by the old stager. Helderberg Blue raced handy, which was ideal under the circumstances, so he kept on for an honourable third spot. But Futura was supreme.
Now Louis the King gets popped the question. Power King gets going. Futura is coming home full of running between runners. It's Futura that strikes the front with 100 metres left to go. And Futura is drawing clear. Futura wins the JMB Met. Close behind that, Gold Onyx and Helderberg Blue in a photo. Then came Talina back in fourth.
Let's go back to the other Group 1 race that was held on Lormeron's Queen's Plate Day, which of course is the Paddock Stakes, probably the most prestigious fillies Group 1 race in the country for open fillies and mares. And once again, that Guineas form was seen to good avail.
INARA provided Grant van Niekerk with his very first Grade 1 success. That was his ambition. I chatted to him months ago, and he was frustrated that he hadn't got the breaks. Remember, he just got beaten award on Smanja Manja in the July, and but he's a very good rider. Horses go for him, and he's got that happy-go-lucky temperament, which helps in top-level sport. And he switched INARA at just the right time. She got first run, which enabled her to stave off Athena.
The 3-year-old INARA is running an absolute cracker. We're into the final furlong. Hamizuka hard up against the outside. Jet Bell is getting going between runners. INARA's along the inside. It's the sponsors blue of INARA in front and the sponsors blue of Jet Bell up the outside. Athena flying along the inside, coming to the wire. INARA kept going from Athena. Then came Jet Bell and Pine Princess.
A case in point where it was not that outside strip that was really hot. It was the Cape Flying Championship, sponsored by Betting World.
That's true, yeah. Down the straight at Kenilworth, the inner draws tended to be favoured, and sure, it was just an incredibly exciting finish. Mike de Kock got the victory on the bob with Alboran Sea, a giant barreled Aussie filly, just a genuine speedball, and she'd raced too freely in the Southern Cross Stakes, and she got lumbered late by Fly By Night. I know the stable were disappointed about that outcome, but on my speed figs it was a Grade 1 performance even in defeat, and so she was matched up against Captain of All and Carry On Alice and a number of old tough graded sprinters. And she stalked the pace, which was actually ideal, and then quickened up early. I actually watched the race next to Dennis Dry, and his instincts were that he got nailed on the line, and other people were consoling and saying, "No, you got it, Uncle Den." But he feared that he'd been lumbered, and that's how it turned out on the photo. Very, very exciting sprint.
It's almost uncanny that we were sitting here almost yesterday talking about the feature race season, and in the flash of an eyelid, on one weekend, two of the prepotent colts and fillies of last season in Active War and INARA have already stamped themselves as lively contenders for the forthcoming Cape Summer season. What do you make of those two performances to start with?
Andrew, Active War was sensational. That was an absolutely brilliant career best. Looked $1 million and settled off a very torrid early pace. His stretch run was swift. It really was a consummate performance. That was, to me, eye-catching. Bodes extremely well for the Queen's Plate, which is going to be a hot contest this year. INARA, she was much the best. That race was a very slow run early, and she just stalked the pace set by Come Fly With Me, and took control quite easily. But she's a dual Grade 1 winner. There's no reason why she can't add to that record this coming summer.
They fall firmly into the category of the more things change, the more things stay the same.
Yeah.
Let's move on to what's coming up next. You've earmarked a few horses. Let's start off with your list.
Right, well, for the Colts Guineas, Andrew, I thought Rabada, Seventh Plain, Arabian Beat would be the main protagonists. Obviously, we're projecting well into the future, and there are bound to be a couple of late developers who stamp their mark. Baritone from the Snaith Yard has impressed me locally. Whether he's quite up to that class is debatable.
Fillies Guineas?
Fillies Guineas, I thought ERTIJAAL, based on her juvenile efforts, she was supreme. Persian Rug, remember her doing the jinking sidestep at Graver when she looked to have that big race sewn up. Those were the two that caught my eye. And more recently, a filly of Dennis Dry's, Well in Flight, won very smoothly indeed, and I think they may well have high hopes. I know Uncle Den's yard has arrived in the Cape just a couple of days ago, and he'll no doubt bring them along over the next month or two.
Cape Flying Championship.
Flying Champs, Carry On Alice, one of my favourite fillies racing around South Africa. She's just acquitted herself so well against the boys in different centres. She really is a sterling filly, and I think sprinting is her forte.
With Captain of All having gone to stud, and of course ALBORAN also having gone to stud.
Yeah, how was that tussle last year? It really was one of the great races of the season that we reviewed. Gulf Storm ran very well in the Scottsville Grade 1 race, and with those others out of the way, may well prove good enough to pick up a Grade 1. Trip to Heaven, the figures that Trip to Heaven's been attaining, right up there at Grade 1 level, and still has tremendous scope. And then in the Cape, there's the really huge chestnut Brutal Force. That is exactly the sort that could only now start coming into his own as he physically slots into shape. And I'm not quite sure that he's up to Grade 1 status. Who knows, he might be. Queen's Plate, Act of War, Captain America, formidable galloper, and obviously Legislate and Futura. For the Met, other possibilities would be Legal Eagle, French Navy, Helderberg Blue, and the Conglomerate. For the Majorca, I mentioned Same Jurisdiction, INARA, maybe yes, and Alexis. For the Crawford Barn, Paddock Stakes, Pine Princess, Siren's Call, Smart Call. And for the Derby, Muwari, Abashiri, and Brazuca.